A social media storm is brewing this week over something called Bovaer.
The chemical, known commercially as Bovaer.
Bovaer.
The cattle feed additive called Bovaer in their dairy and beef products.
That with Morrison's, Tesco and Aldi to trial the use of feed additive Bovaer.
And welcome back to another episode of the Smallholding Revolution. Speak English, baby. I'm Alan, this is David, and this is Scotty.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
All the blessings to you.
Before we start, just want to point out, this is the first recording all three of us are doing in the studio, the new studio, at the same time.
Oh, so sexy.
Love it. But yes, welcome back. Happy New Year. And we have a lot of exciting things to talk to you about. But before we get started, actually, there's something that came up because it's a little bit off script. There's this thing called Bovaer.
Very continental.
Have you guys heard about this? Because like it's a little bit suspicious.
It's a cattle feed supplement that's so controversial, it's seen some Brits pouring their milk down the drain.
In Canada, agriculture as a whole contributes 8% of the national greenhouse gas budget, and methane emissions from cattle contribute 40% of agricultural emissions. So,
Coles and the meat industry have today rushed to the defence of so-called carbon-neutral beef achieved by feeding cattle with a chemical additive. Now, they insist that the process is safe, despite a scare campaign gathering pace on social media.
So Coles now stocks beef and dairy products that use the hormone, but what exactly is it and why are there calls for a boycott in Australia? Well, to answer all our questions, we're joined by today medical expert Dr Nick Coatsworth. Good morning to you, Doctor. Great to see you as always. Break down for us, what is Bovaer?
Bovaer, it's a chemical that is added to feed for cattle.
my name is Karen Boschema, and I'm a ruminant nutritionist at the Lethbridge Research Centre. Methane is a potent greenhouse gas. So in our research, we're interested in developing ways to feed cattle so that we have highly productive animals, healthy animals, but that produce less methane.
I'm not sure if any of you have heard of this new additive that Arla Foods, I'll kind of try and read, where's the screenshot? We have just announced a new project, it's up here as well, that with Morrison's, Tesco and Aldi to trial the use of feed additive Bovaer, I don't know if that's how you say it, Bovaer, on 30 Arla farms.
We've been looking at a particular feed additive that when fed to the cattle reduce methane emissions by about 30%, and that's both for beef cattle and for dairy cattle. So that's very promising for the industry. There's a lot of value, especially in a country like Canada, where we have tremendous amounts of permanent pasture and grasslands. There's a lot of advantages of maintaining cattle on those grasslands. So we need to find ways of keeping our beef cattle on those grasslands, about reducing methane emissions.
So you might have heard the announcement this week that companies like Coles here are using a cattle feed additive called Bovaer in their dairy and beef products. This is apparently going to help reduce methane emissions. There have been over 60 countries, including here in Australia, who have approved this additive for commercial use, even though the company who manufacture Bovaer claim that it is safe for animals, consumers and farmers.
Lots of stuff has sort of happened in the milk world regarding a thing called Bovaer. I think that's how you pronounce it. If any of you watched a lot of social media and stuff, you might have seen there's been a trial of a methane suppressant on some Arla farms. And there's been a bit of a kickback from this from consumers regarding saying boycott Arla products because they don't like the thought of cattle having this.
There has been an uprising this week over cows farting. Shocking at first glance, but what is it all about? Well, it's about the drive to net zero and some people considering cows being the arch enemy of that because they fart and burp lots and emit methane. allegedly the biggest second gas contributor to global warming after carbon dioxide.
One side of the argument, they're saying that the supplement is broken down in the cow's natural digestive processes and fully metabolized, meaning it won't be present in the beef or dairy products. But on the other side, people are saying there hasn't been enough long-term testing to know the outcome for the animals or for those who consume them, despite the manufacturer's safety claims. People are also asking questions about the discretion letter from the FDA stating that caution should be exercised when handling Bovaer, as it may damage male fertility and reproductive organs, and that it is potentially harmful when inhaled and causes irritation of the skin and eyes if contact is made. Therefore, protective gear must be worn.
My own thoughts on this is that, first of all, boycotting the products is going to probably damage some of the UK farming industry at a time it doesn't need it. If you suddenly start boycotting Arla farmers, just because 30 farms are involved with it.
There's also been a lack of clarity around labelling and whether these products will actually state whether Bovaer is being used. But what are your thoughts? Are you concerned about Coles using Bovaer in their beef or dairy?
And I just thought I'd come on here and talk about a little bit about it, just from the farming perspective and kind of what's happening and everything like that, really. I'm not an Arla producer, I'm just in the dairy industry. But first of all, I'd like to say that if there's a boycott, a lot of people, there seems to be a massive overreaction on this, with a lot of people not really getting it. So for starters, there's only 30 farms in the UK trialling this. It's not hundreds. I don't know how many farmers supply Arla in the UK, but there are 7,000 something dairy farms in the UK. So they put it in perspective of how much milk is actually being affected using.
For those of you that don't know, Bovaer, if I'm saying it correctly, that's how new it is. No one even knows how to say it right. Okay, I don't know how to say it right. It's this new additive. It's this new additive that they're adding. It's a chemical that they're giving to cows, basically. That's to stop them farting.
No, April Fools. It's got to be. It's got to be. April Fools. Calling it.
But this sounds silly, but it's to stop them farting. But it seems so new. They haven't really tested it to see what it's going to do to cows. And obviously, if it's going into cows, it's going into our meat and all of our foodstuffs. But it's not been tested.
No. It's bonkers. Well, first
All right, it's been tested somewhat, but how much has it been tested? And it hasn't been run through proper health trials. And
well, I've done a bit of a search here. So I first came across it a couple of years ago. You probably, if you've listened to the news and you're on board with all the information about the climate change agenda.
Yeah.
One of the things that we keep hearing this phrase, we've got to reduce carbon. I think we mentioned it in an podcast. You can't really reduce carbon. There's a certain amount of carbon on this planet, and there will always be a certain amount of carbon. But what they really mean is they want to reduce the amount of carbon dioxide and other products similar to, or gases similar to that, like methane, in the atmosphere, because allegedly they act as a, if you like, a blanket to help the planet, or to result, which will result in
bonkers.
Up, blah blah blah. So you either believe that or you don't. But let's assume that it is true, because there's a phrase called climate change deniers now. We don't want to be one of those, do we? No. But anyway, we'll assume that that is the case. Apparently, you've probably heard that cows have been producing a lot of methane from their farts. And there's been all sorts of talk about how to reduce this. And rather than look at what is causing the methane, the wonderful scientists have come up in collusion with, that's the wrong word, it's a pejorative word, collusion. The controllers have come up with this crazy idea to create a chemical which they're going to add to the food of cows. So rather than change the food, we'll talk about that in a second, they're going to add this chemical which they've branded Bovaer, that's the brand name of it. And apparently, and I've got some information here that I've just researched on our great friend ChatGPT about what it actually is, but this reduces the amount of methane that cows produce. Now, all sounds innocuous enough, but it hasn't been tested on humans, and they've released it into the food chain, and when I walked in today, there's 4 of us here. Nobody had heard about it. But if you're buying milk that is not organic or cheese that's not organic, then that has been impacted by this chemical.
So it's not just in the meat, it's in everything that comes out of a cow, obviously. Yeah. Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised if they'll extend it to pig food as well. So that would be pork, sausages, burgers, that sort of thing. But certainly anything dairy from cows, yogurts, trifles, anything that has dairy products in it. So, shall I?
Yeah, sure. But, all right, I know you've covered it, but I haven't got past the point that they're fixing a problem of cows farting.
I'm just sitting here just going, it's all bonkers.
Yeah. So
it's
if
like,
you think,
but don't cows fart anyway?
Yeah, but they don't fart to the extreme levels that they fart in modern feedlots. So modern cows are kept indoors.
Oh, okay.
So in the old days, well, for millions of years, bovine animals, which have 4 stomachs, they eat cellulose-based grasses, the herbs, plants with lots of lignin in.
Okay.
And so what they do is they consume the food. You've probably seen cows lying in a field occasionally. You don't see them very often now, certainly in the UK. But the cows will go out, they'll eat, and then they'll have a period where they sit down, and you've probably heard the phrase chewing the cud?
Yeah.
So what that is they swallow it into one stomach, the microbes digest it, they then regurgitate it up, chew it, and then swallow it down into stomach number 2, etc., etc.
Okay.
So it goes through a cycle in their system where the grasses and the herbs and the plants are broken down and effectively consumed by the microbes, and then the nutrients from that and the chemicals are shared into the bloodstream, into the cow. And that's historically how it's done. And of course, like us, cows will occasionally fart. But cow pats on fields where cows are eating normal grass, if you've ever seen them, they're pretty dry things.
Crusty.
Crusty on top, a little bit moist underneath. But cows in feedlots produce this awful diarrhea-like substance that, what do they call it?
Slurry.
Slurry!
Yeah.
Now,
that's slurry.
Yeah.
I've heard of the term slurry, but I didn't know it was just like
it's runny
cow waste.
Runny cow waste.
Yeah, runny cow waste.
So
cow
in the same
water,
way, if you
basically.
remember when last time you had runny waste, it was usually because you ate something not so.
Yeah.
It was New Year.
Yeah. You either ate or drank something that you shouldn't have done. Well,
New Year kebab.
Oh gosh.
But the same is happening with cows. We're feeding them on the wrong thing, and what they've realised is that cows are fed. They can grow much quicker and produce higher yields, i.e. we talked about this before, higher weights of food, masses of meat and food, if you feed them on high protein soy-based meals, which is one of the main feeds, I believe.
So the key point is they're going from grass to eating soy.
Yeah, now cows did not eat soybeans naturally.
No.
That's not their natural.
What is it with modern farming and just trying to like accelerate everything that they're producing? It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't.
It's about quality, not how fast it can.
Yeah, exactly. But the modern monetary system,
it's that.
It's that is driving it.
Okay.
And it's the financialization of this whole industry to extremes.
The economics of it.
Yeah.
It needs to be faster. It needs to weigh more.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can see the why.
Yeah.
But instead of changing the diet so the cows fart less, they decided in their usual way to introduce yet another chemical into the food chain, which hasn't been tested. Now, if you remember in the UK, we had a thing a few years ago, probably 20 years ago now, called BSE, bovine spongiform
mad cow disease.
Mad cow disease.
Mad cow disease. One.
And there's all sorts of theories as to what it really was, but if you take the accepted view that it was a disease of effectively the nervous tissue, because cows were fed. It was contamination in the cow feed. Mainly, they were feeding dead cows back to cows, and it was contamination in the feed. It was probably more than that, but let's assume that was correct. That went on for a number of years before it exposed itself in the human population.
Okay.
So this is the concern, or one of my concerns about Bovaer.
It should be everyone's concern.
Yeah. If it's perfectly safe, why don't the people who are producing it go on TV and eat it? and show us how safe it really is.
That's a big call to arms on that one.
Exactly. And not just once. It's going to be your diet for 12 months.
12 months. Sprinkle it on your lunch.
Well, take a couple of steps back first before we're calling them out, right?
Yeah, why not? Well, if you believe it's so healthy, eat it yourself and show us. And then we'll go for it. No problem. By me, please.
So, surely that they've identified this problem, methane in cows. They've come up with a concept. So they. Some scientists have brainstormed and tested different ways, adding chemicals, doing different things, coming up with innovations, maybe a synthetic grass or something along those lines. So they're testing all of these different things. Surely, as they're testing all of these different solutions to reduce these methane pieces, this one's risen to the top. Okay? And in their small environments, surely they've tested it and then gone, it is safe to be able to then put into the food chain. Yeah. So why would we need to call them out and say, you eat it in front of us before we put it into the food chain? Surely, I've got faith, surely they've done that. So they've tested a lot of other things and they've tested it with typically, mice or rats or anything along those lines. I'm not sure whether that crosses over into humans straight away, but then there'll be some trials to go on to primates or whatever and along those lines. And I'm not advocating that sort of testing if it's harming animals or anything along those lines. But surely they've done that before just going ticked mass rollout to every single cow dairy producer in the UK. Surely it's not gone from 0 to hero, mass rollout really quickly.
Well, worse than that, it's gone to mass rollout and they haven't even told us. The main company in Britain that distributes this is Arla, which is one of the biggest farm aggregation companies. And all of their farmers are producing it. So if you go into Sainsbury's, there's been a freedom of information request with Sainsbury's in the UK saying, are you distributing Bovaer-based products? And they've said they aren't in their own brand, but some of their own brand milks and dairy products are produced by Arla, who then do allow it. Now, the Soil Association will organic. So if you want to avoid it for now, at any rate, you can buy certified organic products in the UK. Soil Association, look for the Soil Association logo or Organic Farmers and Growers logo. And anyone who produces the dairy products through the Soil Association cannot use it. They've refused to allow it in their food chain. So that's the one way you can avoid it. However, coming back to your question, surely the faith...
Surely.
They will have, what did you say? They will have tested it.
They would have tested it, done a small sample, put it into
They've not tested it
small food groups.
Not been
so it's not tested on humans.
But
so how can you go from
their argument is that
not giving it to humans to mass rollout of humans?
Well, the argument is they're not giving it to humans, they're giving it to the cows. But we are eating the cows. There seems to be a bit of a disconnect.
And the dairy.
So we're eating the product. For example, a mother who's got a baby and is breastfeeding her baby is feeding it with human products that have been made by her. So everything that is produced by her, the chemicals, the enzymes, all of the excretions that are in that milk come from her, which will include things like, if you're a cow, if you're consuming Bovaer, part of that chemical will persist. They say it breaks down, but I haven't seen any figures to the length of persistence, the half-life of this chemical, and there's been no evidence that I can see. Maybe there is by the time you're watching this. The half-life of Bovaer at body temperature is 30 seconds or something. I don't know.
Yeah. So before calling them out and getting them on to eat cheese on national news and say it's
safe. I say call them out. No, because here's my argument. Here's my argument. Going back to David's analogy of a mother breastfeeding the child, if that mother is on heroin and breastfeeding the child, does the child not get heroin?
Yeah.
if the shelf life is there, and this is what we're saying, how long does it take to break down? They might have already tested that, and we don't know.
Yeah, but why don't we know? Why don't they tell us? The reason, why isn't that out there? Did you even know it existed?
No.
Exactly. They don't even tell
Could
you.
it be they've
It's
tested
in the
it
food
and
chain.
found that it's going in the food chain, but don't want to report it?
I don't watch the news because I don't like getting
Well,
sad.
on the internet.
Yeah, but I wouldn't search for new additives put in foods.
But but additives in foods shouldn't be. You should be informed. If you're going to buy milk, you think you're buying milk. You're not buying milk plus some of 2 or 3 chemicals that aren't natural, that are man-made chemicals.
Yeah.
Surely you'd want to know if someone decided to. Once if they decided to put a growth hormone in, something that would stunt your growth, something that would make you sterile, something that would, I don't know, change your perception or change your personality in there because they thought it was a good idea.
Yeah.
You'd want to know about it, wouldn't you? So you'd have the choice of whether you could have it or not.
Sure. Yes. The simple answer is yes, I would like to know. So how does this work beforehand? Let's go traditionally then, right? So if there's new additives put in food elsewhere, in other foods, what is the process it's taken on before it can be put into the food chain?
Yeah, what is that process structure? Do they not have to present to the FDA? America's FDA. What do we have here? It's not
Food Standards
Agency. FSA, yeah.
So they do a little presentation like this, a little plate of cheese with Bovaer in it.
That tastes all right.
Yeah, it's all right.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's rather.
And then they put on a lot of spreadsheets, and they say it breaks down within a certain amount of time, and it's no harm to humans. Here's the study to prove it. Then the FSA ticks it.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Surely
that's happened.
So.
Surely that's happened with Bovaer.
We would hope so. But even if it has, wouldn't you like to know?
Yes.
It's the like to know part.
Because
that's insidious.
what's the benefit to humans?
Okay, so
hold on. Think about it. Are they doing this for us? Bear in mind you're consuming it. It's not. There's not a benefit to the ultimate consumer, other than the fact that some bureaucrat says it will reduce the amount of methane that cows produce. But they don't say, oh well, the red arrows through a lovely display over. Let's put some Bovaer in there in their fuel tanks
to reduce that.
Spewing out a huge amount of.
Because here's the dangerous thing: they're fixing a non-problem.
Yeah, well, we discussed that at the beginning, and I'm all in with that.
But it's a dangerous fix for a non-problem.
Yeah.
It could be.
Yeah.
And we don't know. And
but the point is it worth taking that risk?
And the fingers are coming out now. We're pointing all like, this is getting heated. The fingers are coming out, right? Surely, I've got faith in our FSA. Surely.
Yeah, but what's the problem they're solving?
Or, right, have you Googlised and asked ChatGTP about Bovaer?
Yeah,
let's read it.
Is it on food labels?
Bovaer is a feed additive developed by DSM to reduce methane emissions from ruminant livestock such as cows, sheep and goats. It's a novel solution in the agricultural industry aimed at mitigating greenhouse gas emissions from livestock, which are a significant contributor to global warming. Notice that phrase, a significant contributor. Well, more significant than drones or military
cars,
aircraft,
cars,
tanks, those lovely Abrams tanks,
ships,
flying across
aeroplanes,
Ukraine, ships.
All of that,
I don't really think so.
Yeah,
But anyway, we'll
anyway.
move on. We don't know. How Bovaer works. The active ingredient compound is in Bovaer is 3-nitrooxypropanol. There you go, 3-nitrooxypropanol, 3-NOP for short. The mode of action. When added to the animal's feed, Bovaer inhibits an enzyme in the digestive system responsible for methane production. This reduces the amount of methane released through belching, which is belching, burping, not farting.
Okay.
I'm sure it's farting as well. Which is the primary source of methane emissions from ruminants. Impact. Studies show how Bovaer can reduce methane emissions by 30% to over 80%, depending on the type of diet of the animal. There you go. Depending on the type of diet of the animal.
So the soil.
Why not just change the diet of the animal so that it has a diet where it will reduce it naturally? Back to grass, basically. Benefits. Environmental, significant reduction in methane emissions help combat climate change. Efficiency, reduces the energy lost in methane production, which could lead to improved feed efficiency, making it grow faster.
Yeah.
Sustainability, supports the livestock industry in achieving sustainability goals. Well, that's just nonsense. That's a circular argument. Applications, Bovaer is intended for use in dairy farms, beef production, and other ruminant livestock operations. So that won't be pigs then, because they're not ruminants. It is typically mixed into the daily feed of the animals in small amounts. Says quarter of a teaspoon per cow per day. But, you know, like you mentioned heroin, you don't need a lot of that to cause damage, do you? If you like to explore its availability or use in the UK, blah, blah, blah. And so I asked the question, has it been tested on humans? The answer was yes. The active ingredient in Bovaer, at 3-NAP, has been tested, and then it goes on to say, for human safety. So then it contradicts itself. It says, but not in the sense of being actually used by humans. So they haven't tested it on humans. So if any of it is residual and comes through in the milk...
Sorry, you've confused me in that last 3 sentences. It has or it hasn't been tested on humans?
It hasn't. They clarify it's been tested for human safety, but not on humans. How you can test it for human safety but not on humans, I don't know. So there's a bit of a contradiction, but it is ChatGPT. So it goes on to say, the testing ensures that milk, meat and other products from animals fed Bovaer are safe for human consumption.
Says who?
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't say.
That's the key point that I want to know.
Yeah. It's not been, I know for a fact, it's not been tested on human beings. There have been no human trials on this. None. They've tested it on rats and they've tested it on...
That's just blowing my mind.
Yeah.
Surely
think
you
of
can't go from zero to mass rollout
as we
without
talked
testing.
About BSE. You know, I mean, as we said, 20 years ago, there was a massive problem where all the cows in Britain had to be killed because of a problem-contaminated food chain.
Maybe we need to go away and just do a little bit more diving and a little bit more information gathering here, because of, like, okay, we've raised the issue here and we've raised some areas of concern.
Yeah.
But there may well be information sources out there that might close some of our arguments off, because if we could wag our fingers and go around ranting for hours right here. Yeah. And I think we need to
do more research.
Yeah.
And if you're watching this out there, I recommend you do your own research and share and make a comment as to what you found out, because we're learning as well. But it just shocks and surprises me that people don't know that this is a new addition into the food chain that may be completely benign and harmless, but it may not be.
And then the wider piece as well, this practice of adding additives into our food system, how common is that? How frequent is that without us knowing? Does it go onto food labels?
Yeah. Well, Bovaer is not on any food labels. The only way you can find out is that the food labels, let's say on a container of milk, there'll be a number that will tell you who the supplier is.
Yeah.
And certain suppliers, so the big ones like Müller, which is Swiss, I think, and Arla Foods, which something like 80% of British dairy farms and sell their dairy products through. They insist that all their farms have to use it. So they have signed up to a deal to use this product, and you have to use it.
And and essentially that mechanism and that distribution, that is why it's gone from zero to hero really quickly, because of essentially Arla.
Yeah, Arla are the big ones in the UK,
right?
And they are not telling people on their labelling that this contains, and it's a trademarked product.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't they?
Yeah.
If they've gone to the extent to trademark the name, they obviously want people to know the name. However, they seem to be a bit afraid to stick it on their packaging. Now contains Bovaer. Hurrah! It's so good. Tell us all about it.
That is suspicious, because they have to highlight every allergen, whether it's pepper or celery or lactose. All of these quite benign, normal things have to be labelled.
True.
The untested fart suppressant.
I'm going to still go, I've got faith that it's okay.
Yeah, good for you. And I admire your faith. And I have faith that your faith may well trump my cynicism.
So let us both go away and research. And let's ask Arla. Let's ask them.
Yeah. And if anyone's watching this and you're working for Arla, tell us about it. Put something in the comments below.
Yeah.
explain to us what exactly is going on.
I've just had that. Sorry, I'm sorry to cut in you there, David. I just had that vision of I don't know what. It's a really evil laugh, actually. You're asking people from Arla to type in, but then I've remembered the movie about Teflon.
Oh yeah,
Dark Waters. Where the people on the conveyor belt of using Teflon are like losing limbs and fingers and losing their life and getting cancerous and everything along those lines. So don't want to be scaring Arla people. If you can message us, that'd be great. Hopefully your health is okay. But it's that sort of impact that you guys are scared of. I've got a little bit more faith.
Yeah, listen, I'm not actually scared of it. I just think it's wrong that they haven't told us it's happening. They should, if it's something that is going throughout the food chain and it's new, especially, it's not like we live in a time where they can't easily tell us.
How would you like to be told?
Easily, they could just put it out on a website, on the
website. Let's find out that information.
Food labeling
and labelling.
Label it.
If they push it out on Tinterweb and it's not
on the label.
Let's see if we can find it on Tinterweb.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Wow.
Yeah, let's do that. And if you'd like to continue this conversation with us, if you want to speak to more like-minded people who want to speak freely about these kind of topics, please join us on smallholdingrevolution.org. It's our website. We have our own community on there with separate forums and discussion points. We post the podcast on the website earlier than we do on YouTube. Just so you know. All right, we'll see you there. We'll catch you on the next one where we help people just like you grow your own freedom. Viva la revolution.
Viva la revolution.